Hello friends, welcome back to a new video. In this session, as always, I wish to take your attention to something that is unique, something that is not well discussed in the media, but something which also has a relevance now. So, you all know about the Pran Pradishta in Ayodhya. I'm not going to get into the political debates of it, I leave it aside. I'm just interested in certain academic things. Basically, you all know when you hear about Ramayana, Lanka, Ravan, the first thing that comes to our mind, what exactly is this? It's Sri Lanka. Even if Sri Lanka even has some Ramayana tours also, for the people who have visited Sri Lanka would be knowing. But if you speak academically or if you speak logically, where could have been Sri Lanka? Do you think that at that point of time, if you look at least when it comes to the chronologically, you can expect Ramayana, historically speaking, maybe around 3000 years. So, although we say mythologically Ramayana comes first and Mahabharata comes second, but historically speaking, it's the other way around. How do we arrive at that conclusion? It's based upon the way the literature and the words have been used, and also the geography that has been explored more. So, in some way, it can be said that Ramayana has been a little bit of southward expansion. But every religion has its elements of myths, its element of fables, as well as its element of philosophical knowledge also. So Hinduism also do have it, and the philosophical Hinduism can be found in Upanishads, and we have Vedantas, right? Vedantas and Vedantas literally belongs or some way points to Upanishads and transmigration of soul, and so that is the core concept of Hinduism, where there is no heaven or hell, but actually the moksha can be the escape from the cycle of death and birth. But here, when it comes to an epic, mythological epic like Ramayana, right? But when we look into Ramayana, I'm not talking about this from my perspective. There has been archaeological evidence, excavations based on it. There, I can cite an article from 2013 where they categorically say that the real Lanka is somewhere in Odisha. Okay, why would they say so? It has its own. They have their own points to cite for it. First of all, the distance that is there from Ayodhya to Sonipur in Orissa is somewhere around 828 kilometers, which is a very well possibility to travel at that point of time when even materially or even otherwise also the transportation was not well developed. And another thing is, whenever you see Ramayana, right, the one tree that has been very well projected is the sal tree, right? Sal or shola tree, which has been used for timber and building of houses and all. That is mostly seen on the other side of India, not to the south of it. Okay, and you can see that this is another important thing is in and around Sonepur there has been a particular festival called as Lanka Pudi. Okay, so why they consider Sri Lanka as not the real Lanka is because the Lanka, which literally translates to island, was given to Sri Lanka much later. In earlier periods, it was known as Ilanga, right? Singala. Then only it lately translated itself into the Lanka. And you always have to understand that even from Buddhist times or even pre-Mauryan period onwards, there has been a considerable amount of migration from Orissa to the Sri Lanka. There has been much cultural resemblance of Orissa and Sri Lanka. So there can be a possibility that this story would have reached there in some other ways also. But why I am signifying putting my emphasis more on this Lenga Pudi is because you know that in other parts, along with this Dasara and all, you can see the effigy of Ravan is burned, right? So it is been considered. Then comes Diwali. So the effigy of Ravan is burned in such a way to point as the victory of good over evil. But when it comes to Lenka Pudi, I will actually project certain papers which has been written on Lenka Pudi. So where here, although it signifies the way in which Hanuman has gone to Lanka and burn the Lanka. In such a way, in another ways, the effigy of Hanuman itself is burned and put in the waters. And also there are very much tribes in the Gond and the central Indian tribes which do take their lineage from Hanuman and also from Ravan. So, but if you look from the Sri Lanka's perspective, this is where the archaeologists have a difference of opinion, because such a kind of an evolutionary or such a kind of a folklore story or such a kind of a folklore history is almost absent in Sri Lanka, but it is very well present in Odisha. So these things all point out that there could be a very well possibility that the Sonepur in Odisha could be the Lanka at that point of time. But and also, if you look into, I will project the map of that Sonepur, and you can see it happens to be on the other side of Mahanadi, and also there is a Langa Lakshmi temple pic also has been projected. So at one point of time, a small story like this would have happened, later got added up mythologically. This happens for every religion, it happens for every other story also. So lately, once different versions of Ramayana would have added up, and it would have reached at a grandeur level like this, because if you historically see, the epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata was written down at a much later point of time, because mostly it was written down during the Gupta age, which is almost 1400 or 1500 years later. So that time the geography and the geographical knowledge of the Indians were much bigger, because during the time of Gupta age only the Indian cultures spread to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. So these all things make me believe, if my rational mind wants me to believe that the real Ramayana story would have happened on the other side of India, and there is a very good probability that the Sonepur could be the Lanka of that time. But will an archaeological excavation go on with it, or will there will be more revelations based on it? In the present political situation, I highly doubt it, because Ramayana, in a way that we see now, has been used as a kind of a software or a kind of a soft power projection of India. So that is where I highly doubt it. And also, if you ask me about my rational thought process of Ramayana, one thing also I wish to point out, I do consider as Hanuman as a tribal rather than as a monkey faced god. I consider Hanuman as a tribal, because basically, if you understand, this is where we have to apply our rational mind when it comes to many epics and mythological stories. So basically, when these stories have been formed, so even this is what I am telling, many politicians also have said, like many even in Yogi Adityanath, or even someone in that Jharkhand central India region have also said that Hanuman is a tribal, because basically Warner is can be very well a tribal conglomeration or a tribal clan. I'll just tell you another example. If you look into the Sangam classics, there is a Mushiga Rajavamsha in Erimala, that is in Kerala. Okay, do you think that people are like rats or mice there? No, that is the name of that particular clan, right? Just like you have a boar symbol for Vijayanagar, or even bear symbol for Russia. Okay, that makes that Warner are very well, in a way, slender looking people resembling monkeys, right? So that is how it got transferred into, when it is being made in such a grandeur and people apply their imagination, these things can happen to mythological things. So I'm my intention is not go into the mythology and religious part. My intention is to analyze and understand how this story would have really happened, or where it would have happened. So this is where archaeologists and many historians who have actually gone through it have pointed out that it could be very well in Subranpur and Sonepur area of the Orissa region, because also if you look into the geography, it is somewhat away from the Aryavarta part, and it is more into the tribal area. So when you understand, like Devas and Rakshas, what exactly you think Rakshas? Rakshas means tribals. Basically, they are tribals because they were away from the land where then normal kind of a subsistence, normal kind of an agricultural revolution was there. People used to have trade and commerce, and that kind of a lifestyle was not there for the tribals. So tribals always resort to the raids in these areas. This has happened even during the British time also. That's the reason why the northeastern tribes, the frontier tribes, were given things like an what you can say, inner line permit and all, because they never wanted them to come down the Assam plains and raid those areas. So this is, so when we think about Rakshas and all, you always understand that the tribal people are more there in the hilly areas. So if you look into those areas now also, this is actually a little bit remote. So these all things makes me believe that the Lanka of the Ramayana is actually there in Orissa rather than in the Sri Lanka, which has been discovered or mythologically associated with the name Lanka much later. So that is where I wish to point out. So I have my just suggestion is, don't get offended by whatever I say, because this has nothing to do with religion. I am just upholding whatever the article 51AH has been given in our constitution, that scientific temper is very much of an importance. So keeping away the mythological things, when we take religion, we can take the philosophical part of it, but all mythologies can't be just digested just like that. We have to apply our logical mind and thought process. So that is my intention on this video. Stay tuned. I will be coming back with another video. Have a nice day.